OP and her golden child brother. While I 28F was looking for a job, my brother 30 offered to help, and I moved in with him. I was so grateful. I cleaned the house, prepared our meals, and did everything around the house. My boyfriend 29 felt responsible for me and brought bags of groceries every day to compensate for what I ate. After a month, I threw away a trash bin swarming with worms. I replaced it with the exact same thing. My brother told me I had no rights and kicked me out. I moved in with my boyfriend. The next day, my mother called. I never tell her anything, she said. It is your fault. It is his house. You don't have a right to his stuff. He is your brother. You've got to obey him. Not long after, I found an amazing job and house. BF and I moved in together. I wanted to help my brother and told him that he could live with us for a couple of months, save money, and move into a better place. I told him not to worry about the rent and other utilities because we are family. He did nothing around the house. I bought a TV my brother became obsessed with. He would watch TV all day, every day. One day, I told my brother dinner was ready. He turned the TV on and left the room. I was laying the table. I opened a news channel. He came back and complained, then switched the channel back on. I told him we should watch something that we could all enjoy. He insisted that he come first. We were going to watch what he wanted to watch. I told him to switch back. He did not. I told him to give me the remote control, and he did not. After demanding the remote control for the 10th time, he threw it on the floor. I told him he could not throw stuff into my house because it did not belong to him. I told him he was not doing anything in the house to help, but at least let us rest and enjoy our day while we could. For context, my BF and I both study for our postgraduate degrees, have jobs, and work in the house. He screamed and cursed. The next day, my mother called and asked what happened, and I refused to answer. She then told me it was my fault and told me to be polite to him because he was a guest. He was my brother, and I had to obey him. 2 weeks ago, I broke my ankle. Last Friday, I was working on my assignments with this excruciating pain in my ankle. My mother called, and I refused to make a comment on the fight. She then started to cry, saying her brother had to order takeout. We did not have food. I then realized I was so busy working and trying to make it to the deadline that I forgot to eat. It was not important, of course. My brother had to order takeout. Unthinkable. Today my brother said, as your brother, I came and am apologizing for cursing at you. I know I am right in the fight, so I expect you to apologize. I told him I did nothing wrong and was not going to apologize. He told me I was sick in the head. He was saying things as if my mother were talking. He told me I had narcissistic personality disorder. He was done, and I was unalive to him. My BF told me my brother suffers from favoritism. AITA. If I want to cut contact with them and kick him out of my house. OP provided more details in her post on relationship advice. I am having problems with my brother, whom I believe is the golden child for my mother. Hello, people of Reddit. I am a first-time poster, so I apologize if I make a mistake. I 28F have been reading AITA and relationship advice posts for over a month now. And today, I decided to make a post and ask strangers how to fix things if I am in the wrong. Here we go. My parents got divorced when I was around 13 because my father 59 cheated on my mother 59. I have had no contact with my father for over 10 years. My mother, for some reason, blamed me for their divorce. She used to come to my bed late at night, shake me, and tell me I was the cause of her failed marriage. We never had a good relationship, but this divorce made everything far worse for us. Whenever we had a problem, she would say that I was sick in the head, crazy, and mentally ill, and was in urgent need of help. As a 14-year-old kid who did not know better, I actually did seek help and made an appointment with a therapist. The therapist told me that she needed to see my mother too. I don't know what the therapist told my mother, but we never visited her again. Sometimes my mother would tell me that the therapist told her I was crazy and a psychopath. If that were the case, why didn't my mother help me by taking me to the therapist? Isn't it what mothers do? Help their kids. I have a brother 30M, the golden child, who got all the nice things, praises, and whatnot when we grew up like any other golden child. I am not going to bother you with how he is the golden child, and I am the unwanted kid, or it would take forever. My brother and I are university graduates. I studied in a foreign country for a postgraduate degree, and last year I came back and started looking for a job in my home country. I wanted to work in the same city where I studied at university, where my long-term boyfriend lives, where all my friends are, and of course where my mother does not exist. While I was looking for a job, my brother offered to help, and I moved in with him. He used to live alone in an old student apartment. I was so grateful that I cleaned the house, prepared our meals, did the laundry, and in short, pretty much did everything around the house. My long-term boyfriend 29M and I are good friends with my brother. BF used to come for dinner every night, and we would hang out. My boyfriend felt responsible for me and brought bags of groceries every day to compensate for what he and I ate. I am a very independent woman and did my best not to become a burden on my brother, both financially and emotionally. After a month, during the holidays, my brother went to see our mother, while I went with my boyfriend to visit his parents, who are amazing people, BTW. We left a day earlier than my brother, and I told him specifically to take out the garbage before leaving, because we were going to be away for 10 days in the middle of the summer heat. We arrived a day before, and guess what? He left the trash bin as it was on the counter. When I looked at it, I saw hundreds of worms swarming in it. I was cleaning the house and throwing the bin away. We bought a new trash bin. Mind you, it was the exact same bin with the same color. When my brother came a day later, I told him what happened. He started yelling, his face turned red with veins pumping, and he was walking on me. He was screaming at me and blaming me for making decisions in his home without asking him first. It was his house. I did not have the right to throw the bin away. It did not matter if it was a $2 bin. It was his. I could not believe my ears. I was being yelled at for a trash bin that I replaced. I told him I would do the same if it happened again because it was gross. He then told me to leave his house. I did, and I moved in with my boyfriend and his roommate. The next day, my mother called me and asked what happened. She asks these questions, but she never listens. She believes what she wants to believe. I am trying to explain to her that my side does not mean anything. So I told her I did not want to talk about what happened. She says, "It is your fault. It is his house. You don't have a right to his stuff. He is your brother. You've got to obey him." I lived with my boyfriend and his roommate for 5 months. They both are lovely people and never made me feel unwanted, even for a second. It was a tough time for me, no house, no job, no money. Not long after, I found an amazing job, found an amazing house, and my boyfriend and I moved in together. I wanted to help my brother like he helped me. His house was falling apart. It was old, dirty, inconvenient, and pretty expensive for only one person. I told him that he could live with us for a couple of months, save money, and move into a better place. I told him not to worry about the rent and other utilities because we are family, right? This is what families do for each other, right? It was a good call because a week later, our country went crazy with the coronavirus. He moved in with us just in time. My BF and I started buying furniture, a happy lamp there, a little table here. It became our house, which we built ourselves. My brother never cooked, cleaned, bought groceries, or offered any help around the house. I felt it was inconvenient, but he was our guest, and I was repaying my debt to him. 2 weeks later, I bought a TV for all of us. This is important. My brother became obsessed with this TV. He would watch movies, documentaries, and shows all day, every day. We were working from home, so he had all the time in the world. One day, while my boyfriend and I were preparing the meal in the kitchen, I told my brother that the food was ready. He turned the TV on and left the room. We eat in the living room. While I was laying the table, I switched the channel to a news channel. He then came back and complained about the news and switched the channel back. I told him we should all watch something that we could all enjoy. He insisted that he come first. We were going to watch what he wanted to watch. I told him to switch back. He did not. I told him to give me the remote control, and he did not. After demanding the remote control for the 10th time, he threw it away on the floor. I told him he could not throw stuff into my house because it did not belong to him. I told him he was not doing anything in the house to help, but at least let us rest and enjoy our lives while we could. For context, my BF and I both study for our postgraduate degrees, have jobs, and work in the house. My brother got up and started yelling. He screamed that my job is easy, but his job is very difficult. He was working his arse off, and we were just writing emails for the show. I told him I was not going to apologize for having a nice job, not easy per se, but pays well. I worked hard for what I have. He then belittles me and my achievements. Not gonna lie, I did the same. I belittled his achievements. He then cursed at me, which is taboo for me, BTW. My mother curses at me for the simplest, stupidest things, so it became taboo for me, something I would never do to my family. I find it very rude and unforgivable. We stopped talking. The next day, my mother called me and asked what happened, and I refused to answer. She then told me it was my fault and told me to be polite to him because he was a guest in our house. We made him uncomfortable. He was my brother, and I had to obey him. If there wasn't a lockdown, she would have come and placed his child in a better house. A 30-year-old man is a child. Hypocrite? Yeah, I know. It has been 3 months since we stopped talking. 2 weeks ago, I broke my ankle and started working from home again. Last Friday was a tough day for me. I had assignments lined up, Excel sheets I needed to work on, and this constant, excruciating pain in my ankle. Late at night, my mother called and asked me to listen to her talk about my brother. I told her I could listen, but only listen. Nothing she says can change what I think, and I refused to make a comment on the fight we had with my brother. She then started to cry and told me my brother had to order takeout because there was no food in the house. I then realized I was so busy working and trying to make it to the deadline that I forgot to eat. It was not important, of course. My brother had to order takeout. Unthinkable. Today, I was laying down and watching TV. He stopped watching it after the fight. And my brother came to me and said, "As your brother, I came and am apologizing for cursing at you. I know I am rigged in the fight, so I expect you to apologize." I told him I did nothing wrong and was not going to apologize. He said that I was 100% in the wrong. When I refused, he told me I was sick in the head. I was crazy and ill. He was saying things as if my mother were talking. He told me I had narcissistic personality disorder. I was selfish, spoiled, self-centered, and all the dirty things as he claimed. He told me he was done, and I was unalive to him. I asked my boyfriend what he thought. He told me my brother suffers from favoritism. I remember that 14-year-old girl now. Should I do what I did years ago? Or am I being manipulated into thinking I am mentally ill, as they claimed? I usually blame myself for everything. I went to 2 more therapists, one overseas and one here. After our talks, they told me I was not mentally ill. I don't know. If someone tells you something for years, you start to doubt yourself. What if they are right? What if I am right? What do I do? I am sorry for the long post. Thank you for reading. Update. Hello Reddit. After reading your comments and discussing them with my boyfriend, I decided to call my mother and explain what really happened. So I called and tried to tell the story from my perspective. I started off by saying that I am not her, and her worldviews do not necessarily reflect mine. She interrupted me 100 times as she does. She did not even try to see things from my side. As we all guessed, she sided with my brother. It was an hour-long call, so I might skip certain things, but I remember her blaming me for leaving food in the refrigerator for my brother. Apparently, paying the bills, cleaning, doing the laundry, and cooking are not enough. I also have to call him to the table and make sure he does eat. Her exact words were, "You are treating him as if he is a stray dog." I will let this sink in for you guys. Surprisingly, she did not know my brother does not pay for anything. It is very convenient. My brother forgot to tell her this. She denied always siding with him. I told her to give me an example when she sided with me. She could not. Well, of course, at the end of our call, I told her I am used to not having a mother in my life. But if she truly loves my brother, she should stop spoiling him. He never had a girlfriend, doesn't have friends, and is the most selfish person I have ever seen. He expects everything to be served on a silver platter. She was shocked, as if she never realized that my brother doesn't have anyone beside us. I told her to think about what I told her and call me back in 2 hours if she agreed with me. She did call, to my surprise, and told me that I am a very compassionate and good-hearted girl. This could be the very first time she has ever said something nice about me. I thanked her and asked for a favor, but she would have to accept it beforehand. She agreed, and I told her to stay out of our arguments with my brother. He always thinks he is in the right because she sides with him unconditionally. It is always 2 versus 1 against me. We will see if she keeps her promise. Later that night, I walked into my brother's room and told him I was hurt. Not because he threw the TV remote or was not following my rules, but because I don't deserve to be called names in my own house at the age of 28. He apologized for swearing and screaming and agreed not to do that anymore. I told him I am not the sole decision maker in our house, and I have to respect my boyfriend's wishes as well. Since he has been a burden for us emotionally, financially, and physically, we both appreciate it if he could find his own place as soon as possible. I told him that even though he kicked me out, I would never do that to him. BF told him he could stay with us until he found his own place. He's still with us. He tries to help around the house. Yesterday, he asked if he could watch TV. Lol. BF knows he is a keeper now. Thank you all for your kind words, and I apologize if I offended anyone in any way. Update. Hello Reddit. It turns out we cannot post several updates for AITA. So I am posting my update here. After writing my update, I asked my brother if he intended to follow our plan for him to move out by the end of August. He raised his eyebrows and kept quiet. I told him we had an agreement. We showed respect and patience, but he did not change one bit. He got offended and left the room. He said, "There is a right time for everything." He already has a job that he has been working for 3 years, but he applied for another job. and he is currently waiting for a response. I didn't even know he applied for a new job until recently. He is reluctant to move out before giving an answer, so he wants to wait and see. I totally understand why he does what he does, but 5 minutes later, my mother called and told me we kicked him out. I cannot understand how, in the whole wide world, I ended up being the bad guy who kicked her brother out. I told her repeatedly that I did not kick him out. She did not listen as always. I told her again that my brother does not pay or do anything. My bonuses were cut because of my ankle. The project on which my boyfriend was working got suspended for 4 months. Moreover, BF is about to finish his thesis, so he is very stressed out. We are having financial difficulties, and I am spending my emergency fund. My brother knows this, and still did not even offer to pay for anything. He even told me he had saved up $30,000 since he moved in with us. I don't want his money. I don't need his money. But it would be nice if he offered. My mother told me she was going to tell him to pay our rent. I told her to stay out of our arguments, as we agreed. She believes she should meddle in our lives as if we were children. I understand she tries to help, but at the end of the day, she makes everything worse. I feel she doesn't care about solving the problem, but she wants to find the guilty kid. It is always me. The next day, we came home and saw my brother cooking. He works from home. He cooked for us for the following days and told me that he could cover the rent and utilities. I kindly declined his offer. I did not tell him this, but I know for a fact that if I accept his money, my mother and brother will remind me of this for the rest of my life. They have this urge to remind you of every little thing they do for you. A couple of days ago, my brother and I got into one of our silly arguments. He again started yelling and screaming. I just kept quiet and watched him. I tried to understand why he was so angry. I asked, "Why are you yelling at me as if I am your enemy?" He stopped and started crying. He told me that he thinks he is misunderstood, and it frustrates him. At that moment, my heart ached, and I hugged him. He cried on my shoulder and kissed me on the cheek. We ended the argument with smiles. Yesterday, he took me out for shopping, and we shared a dinner, just the two of us. I know many of you are disappointed with me. I am one of those people who believes others mistreating us might be a cry for help. I am trying to be a good sister. Thank you. P.S. 5 minutes after writing this update, BF asked for a date again, and he got offended and did not respond. I keep asking him every day to see if he ever gives me an answer. BF said he doesn't have the patience and will be staying with his friend until my brother moves out. Now I find myself pressuring him to move out, and it sickens me. I do not want to kick him out and turn into him. What do I do? Edit. Update comment found by Yogurt Closet 18271. My brother moved into his new house. He says he is still paying for his new furniture. He even invited us for dinner. I am still with my boyfriend, and we are so happy, just as the two of us. My mother, on the other hand, is upset that I kicked him out before the corona vaccine. Everything is fine. It is a happy ending. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.